Uy, aloha e nahoa. Good morning, aloha kakahiaka. I see some of our aloha tuning in on our Zoom room, which I have queued up right now, and I'm gonna start to get my Facebook queued up on my phone. So if you're in here and you wanna go and share your Facebook page, the Kanayo Kana one, and invite more friends. We love having all of our friends join us here on the live. So I'm looking for that. Yep, I see we're live on Facebook. And I'm gonna turn my audio down there. Ooh, it's Po'alima and it's a beautiful day here on Kauai. I'm like looking outside, a little bit cloudy. There was a little bit ua this morning, but always blessed to have some ua in the morning. And I've been I've been playing around with these hydroponics, these little hydroponic plants, and I even had like a little bell pepper seeds I got from the fresh seeds, and I put it into a little plastic bag, and I was so excited. 5 days later, I put it in my little hydroponics, and I see one little baby coming out. It's been so exciting watching that. First time I'm growing bell peppers, and I'm going to try like romaine lettuce and tomato, cucumbers. So yeah, awesome. I see a bunch of friends joining us on Facebook, and actually I'm going to click share, and if you can do the same. So all our friends come check us out. Post. Yeah. Ooh, we got like almost 100 people on Facebook Live. And aloha to all of our friends here in Zoom. I see you guys joining us. And we're, gonna get started in about a minute. We have a great show. I hope some of you joined us yesterday. We had the Ahakane in the morning with Umi Kai and Sam Kapoi talking about Namea Kaua. And we got to see, like, we were in Umi's hale and we got to see all the different mea kaua. That was exciting. And then we went over to Guch's house, and he shared with us a horizontal testing of 7 different luau leaf. So it's been really exciting to be partnering with different people to come in to have some insight into people's hale. I really love that, and we've been having a lot of fun. So yeah, just excited about for all of you coming to join us. And my waki had just kanino, so aloha ho kako. We are gonna get started with Lei Ānuenue. Aloha again to all our friends in Zoom and on Facebook. So my little kahea today is regarding the Food Vault Hawaii. And actually, I saw this on Facebook because of my tita Noelani Arista that's going to be presenting today. And then I was like, oh yeah, who at UH is doing this? And I realized that one of my other titas here from Kauai, Bonnie Jean Manini, who has been a longtime specialist at Manoa, a Native Hawaiian faculty member. She's one of the lead people who are running this program that help to provide mea'ai to our students, to our UH Manoa students. So I wanted to kind of share this with all of you. And if you would like to kokua, because, many of our students and like our communities are facing really hard times. And so I put some information here on how, if you would like to be a part of this movement and make some donations of non-perishable food or toiletries, you can contact the Office of Student Life and Development at UH Manoa. This is their email. You can also call them. And yeah, how do we kokua others? And if you wanna, kokua our haumana at Manoa, this is one of those ways. Even if you wanna like order things from Amazon or from Costco and make it a direct delivery, go call the Office of Student Life Development and you can actually get that donation going over to them. And again, another good way to koku our community, especially our haumana, our students at UH Manoa. So we want to know where you're tuning in from. So please, in the Zoom chat box or even on Facebook, I'm watching both sides. If you can just tell us where you're tuning in from, your aina, so that way we can say aloha to you. We can also say aloha to your aina. So I see Allison's joining us from Kailua, Oahu. We have friends from Palm Springs, California joining us. And I see so many of my friends coming on Facebook. I also see Ohana joining us from Wailua, Kauai, Manoa, Oahu, Mililani, Kalihi Valley, Anahola, Kupanihi, Oahu, Austin, Texas, Hanapepe, Kauai, Lahaina, Maui, Kuli'o'o, and another Ohana from Hanapepe and Kapa'a. I'm seeing on Facebook, we have Ohana joining us, friends joining us from New York, from Waimea, Kauai, from Florida, from Indiana, all kinds of places here on Kauai, Kapolei, Kaimuki, Princeville. And I see a lot of familiar names that continue to join us, and we're just really thankful that you guys are here. Also from Hilo, Waipi Oahu, Moku o Ke'awe, and also Santa Monica, California. So aloha again, everyone. We love building this community here, you know, on the World Wide Web. And we love that Lei Ānuenue that you choose to join us on Lei Ānuenue and allow us to come into your hale, to be with your ohana. Maybe you're there as one, maybe you're there as 3 or 4. You have keiki, you have kupuna, you have yourself. And we're just really excited that we get to share this time with you. I'm seeing more from Washington, Waimanalo, and all over. So amazing. We love spending this time. So I'm tuning in from Hanapepe, Kauai. I'm Malia Nobriga Oliveira, and on behalf of Hawaii Nui Akea, the School of Hawaiian Knowledge, we're just really excited to be a part of this partnership with Kanaio Kana and with so many of our other partners. You know, I've mentioned before, but I do want to do a big kahea and aloha to all of our partners who, when we go live on our Kanaio Kana Facebook page, we also go live on Hawaii Nui Akea's page. We go live on OHA, CNHA, Oiwi TV, Mana Maoli, Kamehameha Schools, and so many more. So again, a big mahalo, because we are just really thankful that everyone is seeing value to this and to the variety of programming that we are able to bring to all of you. So aloha no, I'm gonna unmute my tita Noelani and allow her to introduce herself, and maybe you can tell us a little bit of where you're tuning in from and whatever else you want to share with us today. Aloha.
Hey, aloha mai kākou, mai ka rā puka I Kanawage, I Ānuenue, I Mashpee, ka rā puka ana I hae, a I ka mole olu o le hua. Aloha mai kākou. E nā la hui o ka poe maoli, mai o a o. Mai ka moana na nui Akea a I ko o kou maukai. E aloha no. Aia wau ma Honolulu nei, makiki. So aloha to everyone, from my friends all the way out in the east, Kanikau, Ānuenue, Mashpee, Wampanoag, to Hilo, all the way to Lehua. Aloha to everyone. I appreciate this. And ku aloha I nā poe, marama ho'i I nā kanaka haule ho'i ka mai. Ora. He ora. Ia kako a pau. Mahalo.
Mahalo, ai, e ola no. And you know, thank you for saying aloha to all of our ohana in the Mashpee area. You know, both you and I have a lot of have spent such good times there. And I remember, you know, going to their powwow events with all of our friends. Maybe remind me, what was some of our friends there? Let's say hi to
Tobias.
Yes, Tobias.
Jessie Little Dobert and her family. Trish Kelly Inui, who is Wampanoag Hawaiian, and her family.
Yeah, that was an exciting time. I mean, you were there as a faculty member, and then you were a big support to me when I would bring Hawaiian high school students to be Haumana at Harvard Medical School. So yeah, and so where are you now in your teaching career?
I'm about 25 years in since I started to learn Hawaiian. I know a lot of the people are intimidated, or they get kind of ha'alulu if they think about, oh, Hawaiian language, it's so hard. But I honestly didn't start learning Hawaiian until I was 27. So it's been about 25 years since beginning my education in Hawaiian, my formal education in Hawaiian things. And now I'm a professor at the University of Hawaii at Manoa in the Department of History. But next year, I'm taking a position at McGill University in Montreal as the chair of Indigenous Studies.
So exciting, so exciting. And, you know, we hope that even when you go to McGill, maybe Lei Ānuenue will still be going, and we would love to continue to connect with you, because today we're excited, and I'm going to start to bring up our PowerPoint slides here because we have so much to share and we want to get right to it. And, you know, I'm just going to say for those on Zoom, you know, throughout the presentation, if you have questions, you can use the Q&A box. You can also use the Zoom chat. And I'm also watching on Facebook. So if you want to put some questions there, feel free to do that as well. So let me pull up our screen so we can get started. Okay, let me go to slideshow here. Okay, it's slowly queuing up. And okay, so yeah, over to you, Noi.
Okay, so since everyone's at home, you know, for the last few years, I've been working on different projects that deal with trying to make Hawaiian knowledge, customary knowledge, and archives available online. And this moment in our history, in our shared history, shows that, you know, maybe we want a lot of our Ike Hawaii accessible online so that we can sort of regulate our own sort of relationship with that knowledge. Yeah. So next slide. Today I'm going to be talking about research in Hawaiian language newspapers and Kanikau. This is just kind of a this is me slide. Most of my work, I published my first book last year, The Kingdom and the Republic. That book dealt with, you know, sort of encounters with Hawaiians and the first settlers in Hawaii, but also transformations in Hawaiian governance and law, and the transition for Hawaiian people, and particularly Hawaiian intellectuals like David Malo, here pictured, in their movement from oral, customary sort of practice and performance of knowledge, like keeping all your knowledge inside of you, like all the chants, all the histories, and then starting to like write that down. So the fancy way we talk about that is to talk about it as the transmediation of mo'olelo. That's moving sort of history and chants and stories from oral praxis and performance into published mediums. So that's a picture there on the left of all my recent graduate students. A lot of them have gone into PhD programs. And then that's me and my son on the bottom. He won that ukulele at a performance at the zoo. And then I like this panel in the center. One day I was driving down Kuleana Street, and there was you know, traffic. There was what do you call it, construction, and the sign said Kuleana expect delays. I like to put that up there because a lot of times You know, I said earlier that I started to learn Hawaiian when I was 27, but most of those years and hours I spent sort of really focusing on my studies. So I like to tell the people that I'm training, or I like to suggest to them that kuleana is important, but you know, put your kuleana on mute sometimes. So kuleana, if you have kuleana, kuleana wants capacity, right? It wants you to be, you know, excellent at what you do. So expect delays if you have kuleana. Next slide.
That was really interesting, because when I first saw that picture, I'm like, what is that? What are they trying to say? And I didn't realize it was a light post, stoplight thing there. And then, so mahalo for sharing that, and good manao.
Yeah, kuleana on vibrate. Sticker, they're funny. Boy, I'm online. That's my son.
Hi.
So this slide is just sort of, it's a visual pictorial of some of the kumu that I've had in my life. I've been lucky to have many kumu. Not a lot of them aren't pictured here. Manuge, Pomaigawi, Hau'olia Kaka's there, Kalania Kana, who I still study with, Kumu John Lake, of course. With Auntie Edith McKenzie, I worked on a newspaper project at a time when, if you can believe it, there were no computers, cell phones, or online dictionaries. So everybody had to carry a dictionary. And when the dictionary broke, because we couldn't find a word from a newspaper in a dictionary, we would turn to Uncle Bill Panui, who was the manaleo on the project, and we would ask him if he had time to help us. Hui kalamaya, hey, hiki kenohe. Yeah? Kalamai. Sorry, my family's trying to figure something out. Anyway.
No. This is part of our time together. So we all have ohana, and yeah.
And the manaleo pictured in the image, of course, Auntie Lolena, Ka'ano Ilani Fuller from Ni'ihau, Uncle Eddie, and Tutu Hale, they were there also while we were learning. And the first voices that I actually understood in Hawaiian, the first time I heard Hawaiian, I just like reflexively understood it. That was Uncle Eddie's voice. We were on an immersion trip, and the student next to me said, "What is he saying?" And I just simultaneously translated him. And I realized then, oh, wait a minute, I understood what was said. Those moments, we plan for them, but they just hit us like lightning. So lately, I've been thinking a lot about my kumu and this digital medium that we're inhabiting right now, that I'm inhabiting. How do we take customary knowledge and language and use it to shape the digital mediums that we're engaging with? How do I create applications and websites that when my children engage with it, leave them with the ike and shape them to have mana'o Hawaii, as opposed to the computer shaping our behavior? That's one of the questions I have about this platform, especially social media, which allows people to be authoritative and have authoritative sort of weight and voice to their mana'o, but maybe they haven't had the discipline training that other people have had. And that's another thing that I think our community has to wrestle with. How do the rules of passing knowledge on change in this medium? So slide.
Mahalo. A quick comment is, and I'm mahalo seeing all of these kupuna and people that have influenced your life, because
even there you are, you're in that picture.
Yeah, I was lucky to be in these circles as well. So, you know, I just think even like yesterday when we were interviewing and having a session with Mark Noguchi, he talked about how he was a part of Halau Kekuhi, and the difference that made in his life and the foundation that built for him now as a chef, and how he approaches food and approaches all the work we do. So no matter what, you know, kind of like what we all talk to our students about and our families, is like, no matter what field we're going into, to have this Ike Hawaii and Olelo Hawaii kind of a foundation will guide us in everything we do. So I just wanted to say mahalo for sharing that.
Hiki ke ike. Oh, so this wonderful image by Ahukini Romero, great artist. It encompasses the history of what happens or how we go as a people, as a Lahui, from the chanted and spoken performed word, the mana of that, into the printing press, into wax cylinders, typewriters, computers, and that's, you know, Anakala Larry Kimura on the end here in Kaleo, Hawaii in recording. So when we think about these digital mediums, we should think about them in a whole continuum of the history of the way in which our Olelo and our Ike Hawaii has moved through these mediums. I know when I teach a lot of students, when we talk about the archive or we talk about Pala Pala, people again, they get a little ha'alulu, like, oh, I don't know about the archive. I don't belong there, right? So I kind of changed the name of the archive for this upcoming essay that's coming out this year. And I changed it from Kawaihona Palapala Kahiko to like a pile of old papers to Kawaihona Palapala Manaleo, to highlight the fact that everything that is written in the 19th century, some of it was performed, that these things were composed by native speakers. So that if you have sort of stressful moments when you're looking at text, try to imagine them spoken. Read those things aloud, yeah. So next slide. Now, a lot of people don't realize that the Hawaiian Language Textual Archive comprises the largest indigenous textual source base in native North America and the Polynesian Pacific. How large? The newspapers I'm going to be talking or touching upon today were published from 1834 to 1948. That's over 100 years of newspapers. Include manuscripts, letters, journals, and the business of government. We have a lot of material in the Hawaiian language left to us by our kupuna that many other places and native languages do not have. The business of government, manuscripts, letters, journals, and you can see the backdrop of this is an actual Hawaiian language nūpepa. You can see the texture of it is complex. There are advertisements on the far left of my screen. Next to it is an oli. See the chant? Is a ka'au or a form of story. To the far right, you see he mo'olelo no Africa, global history. So we go from the local, the customary genre of chant to global history. Now, what I try to explain to people, we have this tendency when we're reading something, we're just look at it and it's kind of this silent engagement, right? But if you're a chanter or you're a person who knows mo'olelo, when you look at these newspapers and you see a chant, you start to automatically, unconsciously, reflexively start to vocalize. You start to have that engagement with the chant as if you're getting ready to perform it, right? Because then at that time, people would look at a genre of chant and they would know what styles of leo to employ. The next slide shows us what that might have been done, felt like.
Okay, and then I just wanted to read you a comment I see on Facebook from Renee Walker saying, if you don't preserve your culture and all of the vital experiences, it can be forever lost. It is important for all cultures. History is so very interesting and important, it should never stop.
Mahalo ya oi.
Shall I play? Okay.
E kula ni hako I kau mai lahi luna e hu. Aua mai laha ua, kuku mai laha kuku, ariko mai laha liko, alau mai laha lau, alala mai laha lala, kumu mai laha kumu, kumu paahina oe. e ho'ouru mai, e ho'ouru mai, e uru mai la
Mahalo. Where
So,
did, go ahead.
yeah, a bunch of you recognize that voice, I bet. And if not, tune in later on today. Hinale moana moa, chanting on this. This is a clip from one of the cinematics from our video game, Skin 6.0, that was supported also by Kanai Okana and the Initiative for Indigenous Futures. So I had this idea, right? Like that I wanted to convey what that must have been like for readers, where the voice being chanted and it comes to life. So we made the designers on that video game made that cinematic and sort of convey that sense. Yeah, next slide.
Oh. Okay, stop. They wanted to play again.
I'm going to have to rush a lot.
Over there.
This is just backing up that last slide I gave you, just another visual. You can refer to it later. One newspaper alone, ka nūpepa ku'oko'a, ran for 66 years for 3,316 issues alone. On Papakilo database, you are able to access 48 different Hawaiian language newspaper titles. And so you get a sense that the Hawaiian language newspaper repository is huge. Next slide.
There's a quick question here. Where are the majority of these physical documents stored or housed?
Wow, so tracking the physical newspapers gets you into the history of Hawaiian print culture and how news travels. So I've looked at newspapers in Boston, in at Harvard, all over New England. In Hawaii, a lot of them are housed at Hawaii Pacific at UH Manoa, Hamilton Library, the state archives, the mission houses. The Hawaiian Historical Society has a particularly large cache of physical newspapers. Some of you have them in your attics. Your Tutu still has her copy. Like, go ask Tutu, hey, what you guys got? Go learn about your personal history, right? Okay, so really quickly, this is the quote that shaped my approach to designing research. And this is an indigenous methodology designed by David Malo. I came across it in a letter by William Richards to the ABCFM, Jeremiah Everts. And Richard says, David Malo is among the most intelligent of the people and a most valuable assistant in translating his knowledge of his own language. Is thorough, is able to give authorities for his use of words by reference to ancient Mele and Kanikau. I highlighted that passage because when I'm reading letters, there's a topography for me that emerges when I'm reading. I'm also hearing when I'm reading. Sometimes I'm reading English and I hear the Hawaiian that shaped it. But in this case, this stood out for me, but because what Richard is saying, David Malo was his Hawaiian language instructor. With David Malo and Tau'a, a Tahitian person, a convert that came with William Ellis to Hawaii, with Tau'a and Malo, Richards was able to translate the book of Matthew into Hawaiian. So when Richards doesn't understand a word in the passage that Malo and Tau'a have made for him, he would ask Malo, tell me about this word. And Malo would explain the word by giving its context in a song, in a mele, right? And if you're a chanter, you know what I'm talking about, because when someone chants something to you and you have to respond, you're listening for information that they're giving you that you can repurpose, use your own library of chants that you're familiar with and chant that, right? So this is what helps me in how I do research. So next slide.
Sorry, one more question. Gil is asking, who are these po'e who created these newspapers?
Oh, so in the beginning, the first newspapers were published from the missionary printing presses at Lahaina Lula and also here at the mission houses in Honolulu. It's the 200th anniversary of the planting of the ABCFM mission in Hawaii. So the first writers and the first printers were these individuals who went to those schools who helped the mission. But the chiefs were interesting. They gave to the mission their best trained people like David Malo, because they wanted them to get educated in another form of education. That makes people like Malo educated in two systems of knowledge. They also plant people like Malo because their ears are trained to listen and memorize. So they're also great at relaying information back to the Ali'i about what's going on with the mission.
Mahalo.
Slide. Okay, so this is your Papakilo database. This is what it looks like when you hit advanced search there. I've highlighted it. And it gives you this thing on the far bottom here, extra newspaper features, special newspaper search, where you can input a word, browse newspapers by title if you're interested in a particular title newspaper, or by date if you have an event or you're looking for a person, you can date limit and look for newspapers by date. So next slide. So you see here, I did a search for the word what?
Ku'e.
Ku'e. My students were really interested in ku'e. They kept talking about ku'e, resistance, opposition, as if it were an innate Hawaiian trait, as if resistance was part of our ano Hawaii. So I did this search for them, and you can see there in the search box, ku'e. What's interesting is I got 42,772 hits for that word in various articles. To the left, I've highlighted the different publications that the words appeared in. And you can see how many times it was used in which newspaper. Next slide. Perhaps the most important feature for me as a historian are the categories there on the left of what kind of genre the word appears in. Usually I'm really interested in articles. But if you look at the most important thing for a historian, the decade sort search. By decade, I can locate the usage of that word by decade. And if you look at the numbers, because I can look at the numbers, when is the word resistance really used in Hawaiian language publications? Are you surprised?
Wow.
What do you see in the early part of the century?
Li'i.
Very small usage of the word or need for the word to be used, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
The time where's the highest number of words used? What decade?
Let's put that in the chat. Can you guys let us know in the chat? Because instead of me saying the answer, I want to see how many of you are taking a look, and Zoom chat, Facebook chat. What decade are we seeing the most amount of use of this ku'e and resistance? I see some coming in. So I see people putting 1890 to 1899. And of course, some are mentioning that this is the time of the overthrow and annexation.
So next slide. So I was talking about this on Facebook one day, and my hoa Lelemia Irvine saw my post, and he made me this wonderful visual.
Wow.
Illustrate visually what the numbers were saying on Papakilo. And we are not surprised to see resistance, the words about resistance, shoot through the roof during the period of the overthrow and the annexation. Suggested, which I asked my students, do you think now that the concept of ku'e is an innately Hawaiian, is that part of our nature as a people to resist? Or is it something that emerges when it's necessary? Right, like if you think about all of the different values we have as Hawaiians, aloha, lokahi, it started to get a little nuts in my classrooms. People just kept talking about resistance, and I kept asking them, well, Can we reconsider? And so this tool through Papakilo helped me to illustrate to them that they should think about sort of the historical arc of concepts and words in real-time experiences through our relationship with our kupuna and what they wrote. Next slide.
Kind of cool. You know, I'm thinking, you know, these days right now with just what the situation we're in with COVID, you know, we keep hearing about the curve and, you know, all of that. And I'm thinking right now, like, look at this curve and what is that telling us as a historian or researcher? I see a question here, also interesting, the lowest, most recent, I think World War II and after access.
Yeah, I mean, we can imagine also that there is a sort of, when the newspapers start to slow down in publication, it coincides with the way that the government is saying that Hawaiian can no longer be taught in schools. The Hawaiian is no longer a medium of instruction. So children going to schools cannot learn their lessons in Hawaiian after this early 19th century period, right? So that coincides, right? It's used in response to oppression, but we can't track how the oppression makes the slope go down. We can, that's another project. Questions and observations. All right, so I'm gonna switch modes now and sort of apply some of this thinking to the project of the Kanikau. If you can believe it, I was on this project 20 years ago. And I was on this project as a student. The Kanikau research project was Kavena Johnson, Pamaiten, Kumu, Hula, Kimo, Keaulana, and John Mahelona. And Kavena was the head of it. And I saw her give a talk somewhere. And I saw the talk and she totally blew my mind. And I went up to her afterward with a card and I said, my name is so-and-so and I wanna just be in the room. And nothing happened. And then a year went by and then I saw her again and I did the same thing. I staple, I Xerox, I don't talk. And then a few months passed and I got a phone call. So for a year I stayed in the room and I know none of you can believe this. I said nothing. I just did what I was told. And at the time when we didn't have Papakilo, my job was to go to the microfiche room at UH in Hamilton with a roll of quarters, several rolls of quarters, and find all the Kanikau and Xerox them and bring them to Kavena. And she would sift through the pile and decide what we would look at, and she would type up things and everybody else would pull and they would type, and then we would have discussions and they would translate and I would listen. So that was my job. So I'm talking about this project. Still, it's not my project. It's Kavena Johnson's project. And I haven't really published about it. We still collect Kanikau. I'm still collecting them, but I'm not publishing because, again, it's still not my technical project. And when we get to the point where we want to maybe think about publishing what we did, I'm going to have to find her and have that discussion. So next slide. So this is a lot of information because about Kanikau, there is a lot of information. This image is from the lament for Keopuolani in 1823 when she passed away. Ellis writes about it in his book, and you can go find the book. Also in the late Queen of the Sandwich Islands book, the memoir of Keopuolani, it's in there, and it tells who all the individuals are chanting. Nahi Ena Ena and Kaui Keoli are the children being carried on the backs of people in that image. Styles of chant, you can go back to this. Kawe, we, ho, we. You can immediately start to hear the sound of grief from just sounding those words, right? Kanikau is a dirge, a lament, a chant of mourning. Ma Neva Neva is also grief, but it's also sort of expressive mourning. The things we heard about cutting of hair in odd ways, tattooing the body to commemorate the passing of someone, knocking out teeth. There's a word for that, it's called ma neva neva. In the dictionary, it says uhane is another word for a kanikau, but they said it's rare. So I did that Papakilo search Papakilo search and found out that it is rare, but it has a resurgence in the 1860s. So people are naming the chants, hey, or the first lines of chants, he uhane no, and they would give the person's name, right? So even modify the knowledge that's given in the dictionaries now, because we have these search engines to assist us in modifying our own, where we are with our knowledge, right? So this is what Kavena wrote. The class of chants called Kanikau were usually composed and chanted for the deceased. It was not confined, however, to the deceased. There are Kanikau for the school Lahaina Luna by boarding students who had lived there for years and were about to leave. So you cry when you're gonna miss something, when you're saying farewell to something. When teachers passed away, students composed Kanikau in their honor. Kanikau were written for people who were Hawaiian and not Hawaiian. When people went away to foreign lands, they would lament as a farewell, as Kama Malu did before she left for England. That's a famous one. There were also Kanikau composed when newspapers stopped publication. When people lived in California, Hawaiians lived there during the gold rush and someone died in their family, they would write the Kanikau and send it back home and it would be published in the newspaper. Times chants were chanted to criticize the deceased person for abandoning the living. We heard this from Auntie Lolena when she described mourning practices on Ni'iho, where the community would queue up outside the house and you could hear them coming and chanting all the way to the person. And they would sort of helu and enumerate all of the reasons why they were upset because the person had left them behind. To criticize a bad policy, sometimes people would write chants about the loss of intelligence, or maybe they worried about the disposition of their souls, so they worried about that and wrote a Kanikau. Okay, next slide. The first two Kanikau published in the newspapers, Kalama and Kumu, Hawaii, are for chiefs. And that's because at the beginning of these publications, the student newspapers left a page for Hawaiian cultural content. You can see already the different texture of the two chants that I've put up here. One on the left is for Ke'eao Moku, and it says, He hapa ke'eo ke kanikau no ka make ana. So it's first published in, again, William Ellis's book, and he relates the whole situation wherein he heard this part of a kanikau. And you can imagine that his ear and the ear of the people who are assisting him, that this is what they could parse, because it's very sort of straightforward and it's a helu papa, right? Ku'uhoi, kawao, kawi, ikapa, ka'aina, ku'uhoi, ku'ilihune, yeah, a listing of just general things. In a time of famine, when the lands were secure, during my time of impoverished, meant through wind and rain, through the heat of the sun, you know, like, you're not a fair weather friend. You're there, you're my friend during all kinds of times, right? But this chant on the right, you can see it's really dense. It's a Kanikau composed for Ka'ahumanu. And I put the dates there of its republication. From 1834 rather, 1835, 1857, and 1907, you can see that people all across the 19th century imagined this as an exemplary kind of chant for its composition and the manner, the kind of language it's used. When you start researching the chants, especially those for high chiefs, you see a different kind of Hawaiian language employed. I would say, you know, they would say Germans have High German, we have High Hawaiian. Yeah, that is a kind of a chant honoring chiefs that may be a sacred kind of chant language. Some of the Manaleo that I was trained by talked about these languages with kahuna and their training as they were being raised in the healing arts. In fact, this chant was attempted once to be translated in the late 19th century in an English language newspaper by Curtis Lyons. You can see already the first line, mi hala na au I kua kahiki ka neba ana, kaha na kalei na aku nei liu liu, liua paiu, paia aku nei kuanalia. You can hear the sounding, yeah, of the grief, the sound of the words. And This is a very difficult chant to translate. So Kavena translated it. And if you want to see her translation, I actually used it in the David Malo biography that's being published later this year by UH Press.
Oh.
I didn't try to translate it. I think I'm gonna keep working on it. So next slide.
Again, just a reminder, if anyone has questions as we go along, feel free to use the Q&A or the chat, and we'll bring it forward to Noi.
So Kanikau here, I've just kind of splatted this information on here, are chants that relate the intimate lives of everyday people in public via the newspaper. It's really, if you're a historian, a great way to learn about the social history, history from below. They give us a general view of the islands, Wahipana, famed waters and seas, really general, the kind of knowledge that everybody may have known, you know, Nakai Evalu, things like that, right? But then they are also word maps that divulge particular local knowledge of place, wind, and rain names. When I say particular, I mean the kind you can't find in your place names book, right? So one day we went, the team went to Maui and we gave talks, and I would get up there and go, okay, I got this chant and here are the names that I can't find. And afterwards people would come to me and they go, oh, Bebe, that's the name of this house, or that's the name of this place. And sometimes people would say, I want to take you. So never underestimate still the knowledge that's in the people. I work with archives, but I also still talk to people. So these chants are really maps, and they can be used to aid genealogists. I know there's a lot of genealogists listening, and trace social networks. Why? Because some of the chants are written by multiple members of the family and the social network. So one person passes away and 5, 7, 8, sometimes people will write a pauku or contribute an entire chant in honor of that person. So this is a great way to enter genealogy from another source that maybe you're not familiar with. It is the largest genre of chant in the nūpepa, composed by Hawaiians of different background, station, age, and gender. Everyone had someone who passed away. Many people wrote Kanikau. So many Kanikau appeared during times of great disease like now, that the newspapers actually published apologies saying they can't publish them. So that's how large this genre it is. By Kavena Johnson, she's called them songs for the soul. While saying farewell, they also trace the pathway, some of them, like that one for Ka'ahumanu, trace the pathway the soul takes from this world into the realm of ancestors and heaven. So it makes sense, right, that Kavena's working on these chants, because her knowledge in astroarchaeology really came in handy for some of those chants, like the Ka'ahumanu one. So next slide. So I tried my search that I showed you how to do on the word Kanikau. And you saw all the words the few words that I put up. I held back a ton because we only have an hour. You can try all those words in that box, because grief chants are not all called Kanikau. Sometimes they're called kumakena, sometimes they're called uhane, sometimes they just begin with the phrase he aloha no, right? 8,725 hits just for the word. Next slide. So the decade sort tells us a lot also, that as a literary genre in print, they really start to take off in the 1860s. Through the 1890s, it's still a very popular kind of genre. Yeah, so if you haven't tried your hand at looking up Kanikau from your family or you know, your pet project, I mean, I'd be curious to see what you find. We're collecting them slowly and putting them on GitHub. Got a few students who have time on their hands. They just type one out and file it, you know. We just keep going, okay?
I see a few comments and questions. Gil is saying, I'm going to start one for my ohana.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, and yes, the question about the repository, you know what? Not all of them made it to the newspapers. So when I was at Williams College in October, they showed me all these chants that were sent to a newspaper because the editor of that newspaper was an alumnus of Williams College. So those chants ended up in Massachusetts. So like I said, go to your local historical society, go to your local churches. Hawaii has a church archive, right? A lot of these places don't have archivists. So if you can volunteer to help to conserve the papers in your area, this is a great Lahui project, right?
Yeah. I see another one here. Marina is saying, how is this related to obituaries?
Oh, great question. So Kavena would say, you know, in her writings that, you know, some of these incorporate eulogies, but, you know, the kind of, after you read a Kanikau plus a eulogy, an obituary seems very, very dry. See, you might think that I'm talking about a genre of lament, but really these are genres of aloha. This genre is one of aloha. What you're seeing is people reminiscing about all of the places that they frequented with their loved one. So when I said that they were maps, you know, 20 years ago, Kavena said she wanted a video flyover, like a drone. She said this before drones, you know, like interesting. She said she wanted a video flyover of all of the place names listed in a particular chant. Because, and here's a project that I want to work on. So if there's anybody out there who knows how to GIS map things, is to take, we can now aggregate all of the chants that we find from a particular place. Because we have the names and places frequently of where the composers are located, we can then stack the chants like I suggested, map the traverses of where people, of all the places that people held in common, which will give us a sense of where people really lived on their aina, right? We keep looking at the mahele and saying, you know, property and your house property and this, but we all know Hawaiians don't stay on a house property. That's why we have rights to gather. And those traverses actually mark out our territory. It doesn't mean that we're migratory. It means that I need something from the uka, so I go to the uka. If I need something from the kai, I go to the kai, right? And these chants give us those maps because people remembering all the places they were with their loved one. And then we stack that and then we get the densities of that. We have maps of our home places that are not on any map today. The chants are maps.
So, you know, I'm gonna put a kahea out. If there are UH Manoa students that are interested in this kind of project, I would say connect with Native Hawaiian Student Services. I did see Allison Franco as well as Ilima, them online. And, you know, we have these internships that can be a connection between the student with a faculty member. And so you see two of us here, and there's so many amazing faculty members, you know, at Manoa that are doing this kind of research project. So, you know, talk to your Kumu and see if there's a way for you to partner and to be doing this kind of research, and they can mentor you. So yeah, connect with Native Hawaiian Student Services at Manoa and see how we can, you know, continue this kind of work. It sounds really exciting.
So this is an excerpt from one of my, if you can say you have a favorite of this kind of chant, one of my favorite chants. You see here, it's published in 1885 twice. And that's because very long, lengthy entries of chants were sometimes serialized. This chant for Kamakea Kanui Okalani, composed by his wife, Sarai. The first 12 lines are some of the most beautiful poetry I've seen written by someone who, you know, this is what I'm saying about this genre, not necessarily famous to our knowledge, right? Oku kane ua lani polua poho au moe o kane e. I hele mio niau, you see the niau word from Malo's chant for Ka'ahumanu, niau palanehe akura. I ke ala ka hini ula I ka hele a kai a ke kele ai kue aloha. O ku aloha o ku kane ho ie, ku kane mai ka pohu la I o wai anai. Mai ka makani kai a uru vehe launi o po kai. E vehe mai ana I ka poli me he kanaka la. E ho eu mai ana I ke kuru au moe, mo moe aku ka ua o na pō ke hau anu o ka ala, a alu, a ala ka hanu o ka pō kane ke moa ia. U anu ke kino o ka pō kane ole ke moa iho. Aue, ka mina ke kane e. Type in mina. Sorry. Where is this chant taking place?
Where is this chant taking place? Maybe we can get some engagement here with our friends on Zoom and on Facebook. I see Lena Ala saying Oahu. Any other guesses? Any other mana'o out there?
Kalapana.
Moku o Wai'anai. Tatiana says Wai'anai moku. Matthew saying Wai'anai.
Yeah, so the beginning and ending of this chant begins and ends where they had their home in Wai'anai. Her home actually has a name. So I'm imagining with the level of chant knowledge this individual has from the evidence of the first 11 lines, and also the fact that she has a named house, that, you know, her house, her hale has a name, that these are people of some kind of stature in their community. I have highlighted on the right-hand corner in the tentative translation, in yellow, the place names. So you can see Ka'ala, Foka'i, Wai'anai, we're in Wai'anai, we're out there, right? That moku. Orange is the creatures, green, people from Mo'olelo, blue, wind. And you see on the bottom, I went and I counted for you all, 234 line chant, 46 place names, 5 wind, 5 rain names, 6 ocean references, 11 plant references, a bunch of pua references, 5 different composers. This chant, her chant for her husband, 234 lines. So gives you a sense again of how large this chant complex is. And this beginning was so beautiful. I'm not capable of chanting like a chanter who could chant this chant, but I can hear the sounds of it. And that there's a line in here. Sometimes, you know, the topography thing I did in the other screen where I highlighted words popping out, you can hear singular phrases that pop out of here that are actually kuhi from more famous chants. So if you will pull the phrase out of here and search for it in Papakilo, you will find it. You maybe will find, oh, this was in a Hi'iaka chant. This was in, you know, so a lot of times what these authors are doing, what these composers are doing is they're reading the newspapers and they'll go, oh, I like that. And they'll incorporate some of it into their chant. So there's all this kind of kuhi thing going on, but it's in print, yeah? So I think this is maybe one of the last slides. Because of this talk, I went and I looked for customs of grief. Here on the left is an olelo ho'olaha from the kingdom, explaining to everyone how to dress for mourning, how they should dress during the 2-week period of mourning leading up to and through Kalakawa's funeral. That's the image of the funeral there. You can see how people are dressed. And when the whole nation moves to half mourning, there is a reconfiguration of the mourning clothes, and it comes from the government. They invite people who are not citizens to also participate, to observe this mourning process. On the top right, stationery for sale. That is grief stationery in case you have to make correspondence during your time of mourning. You want the proper stationery. On the bottom, enterprising SD Keolanui, who I think was a legislator, maybe a lawyer. I haven't researched him all the way. He offers people, if they need a writer to write down your chant or your mele that you want to submit to the newspaper, he will be your writer. You come to his office, that's where his office is, and he will do that for you. So customs of grief incorporate in the 19th century some Euro-American flair. Yeah, mourning jewelry, mourning clothing, stationery, these kinds of things are incorporated and married into our own cultural practices of grief. I thought it was really fascinating. And finally, the last slide is reviving an art form. Many people today are composing and chanting Kanikau. I've been to several funerals where I've seen this. You can study the chant genre in print, as I've suggested it, and images of grief, where grief resides in the body. You know, for us in Hawaii, in you know, regular culture, oh, my heart is breaking, tears flow. In Hawaiian, grief resides in different places. If you're aggrieved, you feel it in your iwihilo. You feel it in your manawa or your maoli. Your heart is kind of secondary to these processes, right? So where does grief reside in the Hawaiian body? How is pain experienced and expressed, right? Those images, those metaphors are in these chants. And I had a question for everybody, because I've had controversy whenever I've presented this in public. Why don't we commit to memory or chant Kanikau for the chiefs as other forms of chant? When I tell my Maori friends this, they laugh at me. They go, "What do you mean you don't remember them and you don't chant them?" I say, "I don't know. We haven't done that." So I think there's a couple of minutes. Anybody have questions or?
I'm gonna stop sharing, and then yes, I see a few really great questions on Facebook. So Makanalani asked the question, I know the focus of the Zoom and your research is on Kanikau, but do you have any suggestions on how to go about translating and analyzing Ko'ihonua? Are there any similarities when looking at Kanikau and Ko'ihonua?
Okay, so when I worked on that newspaper project with Auntie Edith, I would go into her office and get instructions for whatever I had to do sometimes, and there was a whole wall of folders. And one day I went, "What is that?" And she had collected on a project for Abigail Kawananakoa, whose offices we were working out of. She had collected Ko'ihonua. Ko'ihonua and Kanikau are in repositories and are not published, but they are also published in newspapers. And they are very difficult kinds of chants to translate because they are both chiefly and genealogical and sacred. If you go to the chant books in Bishop Museum, for example, and you start to flip through Lili'u's books, you'll see Ko'ihonua upon Ko'ihonua upon Ko'ihonua. So what I did was, when I found one from my family, I found one of my nearest teachers and I said, "Hey, will you help me look at this?" And it was amazing because he looked at the chant, and aside from telling me where all my typos were immediately, he pulled the superstructure of the genealogy out of it and placed it. Just verbally went through the whole chant and went, "Here's the genealogy. This is so-and-so." And that's a skill you might want to hone if you're going to look at Ko'ihonua. I haven't myself found the time to do that work, but I'm thinking when I'm older and like close to like retiring, that maybe that I will have enough experience with the rest of this stuff to like have created the skill set. Start with these chants, the Kanikau, because they're generic and there's a lot of overlap and you see a lot of repetition, and you can get those figures inside of your lexicon here. Embody our knowledge again, right? We don't want to offshore it to a computer. We still want to embody this knowledge. Yeah, so we can decolonize by embodying the knowledge, right? Okay, so when you do that, every chant you get in there, every chant that you study helps you to lay that foundation we talked about earlier.
Awesome. I love that. Embody the knowledge. You know, Ilima is saying, were there surges of Kanikau publications during epidemics, or anything unique about the Kanikau published during epidemics?
Yeah, see, so I said that I remember seeing, when we were working with Auntie Edie, apologies from newspapers because they lacked space to publish them all, right? So during surges like that, there were either too many to print, or everyone was too busy with the pandemic response that they weren't getting into the newspapers, right? If you go and read journals during pandemics, you start to see the labor that people are engaged in. Like during some of these, the missionaries will write, well, everybody's sick, but we have to bury the dead, right? So when I'm looking at one sort of source, I'm looking at I'm trying to build the context for understanding that source in other genres. Like I'll go reach for a journal. I'll go, something, letter. We need more Hawaiian historians, just gonna say it.
Yeah. No, this has been so great. And mahalo. I know like myself, we're all being inspired to like go wanna jump on Papakilo and do some researches. Like, of course, my first search is usually nūpepa, and I wanna see what's there, right? And seeing that kind of.
And you learn the, like, when you do that, you're like, oh, I never heard of that rain. Where's that place? Like,
yeah. So we're just really thankful. On Facebook, I'm seeing some of my colleagues at Native Hawaiian Student Services share ways that you can get information about the Uivi mentorship program. And you can connect with them and then go find a faculty on campus. Again, we have faculty like Noelani in the history department. We have Ku'aloha Ho'omanawanui in the English department. We have some in political science. We have some in Hawaii Nui Akea, Kamakakua Kalani. Mehana Vaughn is in natural resource and environmental management.
Theater.
Say again? Oh, yes.
Theater.
Hawaiian language, Kawai Huilani. I mean, we're all over the campus. And, connect with your Kumu and talk to them about a program, a project like this, and how can you get involved. And if they are not doing a particular research that's similar to this, maybe they can connect you with someone else. So many great ways. And I think as we're wrapping it up, you wanna maybe end with a few words of mahalo before I put up my last few slides?
Yeah, mahalo ya oe, me kana e o kana, ona poe ako mai ke ia kakahiaka. Malama ya o ko I ka ohana I ko kako kaiauru I ka lahui hoi. And mahalo wau I nā poe nana e malama I ka poe haule I ka mai. Aola.
Ai, e ola no. Mahalo nui a oi e noi no ko ka'ana like mana'o. Just for sharing all of this, the great work you've been doing for so long, for connecting with all of these kupuna, for bringing their ki'i to us today, sharing some of their mo'olelo, and yeah, just the vai that you are doing for our lahui, for our history, for just inspiring all of us to keep on going and to look at.
And mahalo to all my kumu.
Polole, yes. Don't forget to always mahalo your kumu, mahalo your kupuna, mahalo your makua, and then pour into the next generation, I think is what we all are trying to do as kumu and community members, in all different ways. We all have our different roles, and here on the screen, you're seeing a slide on how we ask you humbly to go to kanaiokana.net/survey. There's a few questions there. Takes you a few minutes. There's also some endings, open questions, like, if you know of anyone you would like to see come and join us here, a topic area, a particular speaker, let us know who they are and we will reach out to them. And, we want to be able to continue to bring this kind of cultural programming into your hale together with your ohana for your students. So please take a few minutes to do this survey. And I want to invite you to come back. I still haven't corrected this. It's supposed to say 12 p.m. today. So in 2 hours, you gotta come back and ho'olohe mako'olelo Hawaii. So the next one at 12 is gonna be done all in Hawaiian. Whether you speak Hawaiian or not, I encourage you to come, because like Noi, when she was sitting in the room, she just listened, and you're picking up. You're learning just by listening and being in the room. So, you know, even if you're maybe cooking lunch at that time or something, turn it on and do your thing and listen. I think that's so encouraging, you know, and I know it's going to be a fun panel, and Ekela Kanialpi Okroja is going to be hosting. So you can always go check on the schedule at kanaiokana.net/lei. And usually around Sunday, Monday is when we update the rest of the schedule for the following week. And we got a great one planned for you next week as well. So please come on back. And Oya no ko umaumanao, nui ko umahalo ya oko pakahi. Again, stay connected with us. Come and look for us, Kanayo Kana or Hawaii Nui Akea on Facebook or on Instagram. Come like us, come follow us. That's where you can get a lot of our happenings and, you know, what's going on, whether it be at the university or in our larger community. Please come and stay connected with us and come back. Hola umikumalua, kaukala ikololo. So again, mahalo and mahalo to our team for that Kaipo and the Kanayo Kana team for always being there for our back end. So aloha no, aloha kako.